The metal walls of the prison ship hummed with a sound that never stopped. Kang Day had listened to that sound for 3 months now. 3 months since the Velthron soldiers boarded his merchant ship. 3 months since they killed half his crew and took the rest as prisoners. He sat in his cell with his back against the cold wall. His hands had marks on them from the chains they used during the first few weeks. The Velthrons didn't need chains anymore. Where could he run? They were in deep space, far from Earth, far from any human colony. Day closed his eyes and thought about his ship. It wasn't much, just a small trading vessel that carried supplies between the outer colonies. But it was his. He had worked 15 years to buy it. Now it was gone, probably sold for scrap metal. The sound of boots on metal made him open his eyes. 4 Velthron guards stood outside his cell. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with scales that shined green and gold under the lights. Their eyes were cold like a snake's eyes. "Get up, human," one of them said. His voice came out in a hiss. Day stood slowly. He had learned not to move too fast around them. Fast movements made them angry. The cell door opened with a screech. 2 guards grabbed his arms and pulled him into the corridor. Other prisoners watched from their cells as they walked past. Dai saw a few other humans. He saw Jiwoo, his communications officer, in one cell. She looked thin and tired, but she gave him a small nod. They walked for a long time through the ship's corridors. Day tried to remember the path, but after the 3rd turn he lost track. Finally, they reached a large room. It was a cargo bay, but someone had cleared it out. About 50 prisoners stood along one wall, all of them watching something in the center of the room. In the center was a cage. It was big, maybe 30 feet on each side, with bars as thick as Day's arm. The bars were scratched and dented. Some of them had dark stains that might have been blood. A Velthron in a commander's uniform stood near the cage. His scales were darker than the others, almost black. He saw Day and smiled. Velthrons had too many teeth when they smiled. "Ah, the difficult human," the commander said. "I am Vrelt. You have caused problems on my ship, human. You refuse to work. You teach the other prisoners to resist. This cannot continue." Day said nothing. He had learned that talking to Vrelt was useless. "Do you know what is in this cage?" Vrelt asked. He walked closer to the bars. "This is a Raxel. We caught it on a death world called Krell 9. On that world, the Raxel is the top predator. Nothing hunts the Raxel. The Raxel hunts everything." Vrelt pressed a button on his wrist device. Lights came on inside the cage. Day saw movement in the shadows. The creature that stepped into the light was massive. It stood on 6 legs, each one ending in claws that scraped against the floor. Its body was covered in scales that looked like black glass. The head was long and narrow, with eyes that glowed a dull red. When it opened its mouth, Day saw rows of teeth designed for tearing meat. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Vrelt said. "The Raxel has never failed us. Every prisoner we put in that cage dies. The longest anyone lasted was 43 minutes. A Krill warrior, very strong, very brave. The Raxel ate him piece by piece." The other prisoners were silent. Even the guards looked nervous. "You humans think you are special," Vrelt continued. "You come from a soft world. You have no scales, no claws, no venom. You are weak. Today you will learn your place." 2 guards pushed Day toward the cage door. He didn't fight them. Fighting would do no good. The door opened and they shoved him inside. The door slammed shut behind him with a sound like thunder. Day stood still and looked at the Raxel. The creature looked back at him. It was about 20 feet away, watching him with those red eyes. Day could hear it breathing, a sound like wind through a cave. Outside the cage, the guards were talking and laughing. Day heard them making bets. Most thought he would last 10 minutes. One guard said 5 minutes. Another said the Raxel would kill him in seconds. Day ignored them. He focused on the Raxul. The creature was moving now, walking sideways, circling him. It was smart, Day realized. It was testing him, looking for weakness. He remembered something his grandfather told him when he was young. His grandfather had been a farmer on Earth in the mountains of Korea. He told stories about tigers that came down from the mountains. "Never run from a predator," his grandfather said. "Running makes you prey. Stand your ground. Show no fear." The Raxel moved closer. Its claws clicked on the floor. Day could smell it now. A smell like old blood and something else, something wild. He took a deep breath and made himself stand taller. He spread his arms wide, making himself look bigger. He stared directly at the Raxel's eyes. The creature stopped moving. It tilted its head confused. Day took a step forward. Not a big step, just 1 foot in front of the other. The Raxel took a step back. Outside the cage, the guards stopped laughing. "What is the human doing?" one of them said. "He is supposed to run," another said. Vrelt watched with narrow eyes. "Wait," he said. "Just wait." The Raxel circled again, faster this time. Day turned with it, keeping his eyes on the creature. His heart was beating fast, but he kept his breathing steady. He had to stay calm. Animals could smell fear. Then the Raxel charged. It was fast, faster than Day expected. 6 legs gave it incredible speed. In 2 seconds, it crossed the distance between them. Day threw himself to the side at the last moment. He felt claws tear through his shirt and scratch his shoulder, but he rolled away and came up standing. The Raxel turned, ready to charge again. But Day didn't run. He stood his ground and yelled. It was a deep sound coming from his chest, a sound of challenge. The Raxel stopped. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The only sound was Day's breathing and the creature's low growl. Then the Raxel sat back on its rear legs, watching him. Waiting. Day realized something then. This wasn't going to be a quick fight. The Raxel was smart enough to wait, to learn, and Day had to be smarter. He glanced at the cage. There was a corner with shadows. There was a water trough on one side. The walls were solid metal, no way to climb. It was going to be a long night. Outside the cage, Vrelt's smile was gone. He looked at his guards. "How long has it been?" 3 minutes, Commander." Vrelt nodded slowly. "Keep watching. The human will break. They always break." But inside the cage, Kang Day stood firm, watching the predator that was supposed to kill him, and the predator watched back, trying to understand this strange creature that refused to die. The first hour was the worst. The Raxel attacked 3 more times. Each time, Day barely escaped. He used the corners of the cage, the shadows, anything to break the creature's line of sight. His shirt was torn and bloody. His legs hurt from diving and rolling across the hard floor, but he was still alive. The guards outside had stopped making jokes. They watched in silence now. Some of them looked worried. Vrelt stood with his arms crossed, his face showing nothing. Day pressed his back against the wall, breathing hard. The Raxel stood in the center of the cage, also breathing hard. Good, Day thought. It was getting tired, too. He studied the creature more carefully now. It was big and strong, yes, but big and strong meant it used a lot of energy. Those 6 legs were powerful, but they were also heavy. Every charge took effort. Day, on the other hand, was built for something different. Humans weren't the biggest predators on Earth. They weren't the fastest or the strongest, but they could run for hours. They could hunt all day under the hot sun while other animals collapsed from heat. They could outlast almost anything. He just had to survive long enough to tire the Raxel out. The creature charged again. This time Day was ready. He didn't dive away. Instead, he stepped to the side at the last second and brought his fist down hard on the creature's front leg joint. The Raxel roared and stumbled. Day ran to the opposite corner. His hand hurt from the punch, but he had learned something important. The Raxel's joints were weak points. The scales there were thinner. Outside, one of the guards spoke. "The human hit it." "That's impossible," another guard said. "Nothing fights back against a Raxel." Vrelt said nothing, but his eyes were fixed on Day. The second hour was different. The Raxel became more careful. It stopped charging blindly. Instead, it stalked Day around the cage, moving slowly, watching for mistakes. Day was tired now. His shoulder was bleeding where the claws had caught him. His legs felt heavy, but he couldn't stop moving. If he stopped, the Raxel would attack, so he walked. He kept his eyes on the creature and moved around the cage in a wide circle. The Raxel followed him, but it didn't attack. Good, Day thought. It was learning to respect him. That was the first step. He remembered more of his grandfather's stories. The old man told him about hunting in the mountains. "The tiger is stronger than you," his grandfather said. "But you are smarter. You have patience. You can wait days for the right moment. The tiger cannot." Day walked and walked. The Raxel followed. Time passed slowly. By the 3rd hour, both of them were exhausted. The Raxel lay down near the center of the cage, but its eyes never left Day. Day sat against the wall, also watching. His throat was dry. He looked at the water trough on the far side of the cage. He needed water, but the trough was closer to the Raxel. He stood slowly. The Raxel's head came up, alert. Day walked toward the water trough. He moved slowly, showing no fear. The Raxel growled low in its throat. Day kept walking. When he was 10 feet from the trough, the Raxel stood up. Day stopped. They looked at each other. Then Day did something strange. He made a low sound in his throat, not a growl exactly, but something similar. It was a sound that said, "I am not prey. I am like you." The Raxel tilted its head again, confused. Day took another step. Then another. He reached the trough and drank, never taking his eyes off the creature. The water was cold and tasted like metal, but it was the best thing he had tasted in months. The Raxel watched him drink. It didn't attack. When Day finished, he stepped away from the trough. He gestured toward it with one hand, then backed away to the wall. The Raxel stood very still. Then slowly it walked to the trough and drank. Its eyes stayed on Day the whole time. Outside the cage, the guards were talking among themselves. What is happening? Why doesn't the Raxel attack? It's been 3 hours. The human should be dead. Vrelt stepped closer to the cage bars. His face showed anger now. The Raxel is tired, he said. Once it rests, it will finish the human. But something in his voice said he wasn't sure anymore. The 4th hour was when everything changed. Day was sitting against the wall, trying to rest. His body hurt everywhere. He was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open. But he forced himself to stay alert. The Raxel lay about 15 feet away. It was also tired. Its breathing was heavy and slow. Day watched the creature and thought about Earth. He thought about dogs. Thousands of years ago, wolves were the top predators in many places. They hunted humans. They were dangerous, but humans didn't kill all the wolves. Instead, they made friends with some of them. They shared food. They hunted together. Over time, the wolves became dogs. They became partners. Humans had done this with many animals. Wolves became dogs. Wild horses became tame. Even cats, those small predators, chose to live with humans. Why? Because humans had something special. They could make bonds with other species. They could show respect and friendship to creatures that weren't human. Maybe, Day thought, maybe the Raxel could understand that too. He started to hum. It was a song his mother used to sing, a soft melody. The sound filled the cage. The Raxel's head came up. It stared at him. Day kept humming. He didn't move, didn't threaten, just hummed. After a minute, the Raxel put its head back down, but its eyes stayed open watching him. Day stopped humming and spoke. His voice was quiet. "You're tired," he said. "I'm tired too. We've been fighting for hours, but I don't want to kill you. I could have tried when you fell earlier. I didn't." The Raxel couldn't understand his words, but maybe it understood his tone. Calm, not aggressive. "We're both predators," Day continued. "Where I come from, predators can work together. Hunt together. Maybe we don't have to be enemies." He slowly reached for the water trough. He cupped some water in his hands and held it out toward the Raxel. The creature watched him suspiciously. Day stayed very still, arms extended, offering water. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Raxel stood up. It walked toward him, slow and careful. Day's heart was pounding, but he didn't move. The Raxel came close enough that Day could feel its breath. It sniffed his hands. Then it licked the water from his palms. Its tongue was rough, but not hostile. When the water was gone, the Raxel stepped back. It looked at Day for a long moment. Then it lay down again, but this time it was closer, only 10 feet away. Day let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Outside the cage, every guard was silent. Even Vrelt had no words. The 5th hour came. Day was so tired he could barely think. But he noticed something. The Raxel had moved even closer. Now it was only 5 feet away. He looked at the creature. It looked back at him. And Day saw something in those red eyes. Not hunger, not anger, curiosity. He extended his hand slowly, palm down. The Raxel watched his hand. Then it moved its head forward and sniffed his fingers. Its nose was wet and cold. Day stayed perfectly still. The Raxel sniffed him for a long time. Then it pulled back and settled down again. When the morning cycle lights came on, Kang Day was asleep against the wall, and the Raxel was lying between him and the cage door, its massive body curled protectively around the small human. The predator was guarding him like a cub. Day woke to the sound of angry voices. His whole body ached. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he opened his eyes and saw the black scales of the Raxel right in front of him. He tensed, but the creature didn't move. It was lying down, blocking the view between him and the cage door. Its breathing was slow and steady. The voices outside got louder. Day carefully sat up and looked past the Raxul. Commander Vrelt stood outside the cage with a dozen guards. All of them had weapons pointed at the cage. "Open the door and extract the human," Vrelt ordered. One guard stepped forward with a control device. He pressed a button and the cage door began to slide open with a loud screech of metal. The Raxul's head snapped up. It saw the open door and the guards beyond. Then it did something that made every guard take a step back. It stood up and moved directly in front of Day. Its body was tense, ready to fight. A low growl came from deep in its throat, a sound that vibrated through the floor. "What is it doing?" one guard asked. "Why is it protecting the human?" Another said. Vrelt's face was dark with anger. "Shoot it if you must, but get the human out of there." 3 guards raised their weapons, energy weapons that glowed blue at the tips. Day knew those weapons could burn through metal. Without thinking, Day stood up and placed his hand on the Raxul's flank. The scales were warm under his palm. "Easy," he said quietly. "Easy?" The Raxul's growl got quieter, but it didn't move away from the door. It was still protecting him. Vrelt stared at them. "Impossible," he whispered. "Commander," one of the guards said nervously. "What should we do?" Before Vrelt could answer, another voice spoke. "Don't shoot it." A woman walked into the cargo bay. She was human, thin and tired-looking, wearing the gray clothes of a worker. She had a bag over her shoulder with medical supplies and scanning tools. Day recognized her. Her name was Huni. She had been on a research ship when the Velthrons captured her. They forced her to work as their xenobiologist, someone who studied alien creatures. Vrelt turned to her. "Doctor, you will explain what is happening here." Huni walked closer to the cage. She looked at Day, then at the Raxul, then back at Day. Her eyes were wide. "This shouldn't be possible," she said. "Then explain why it is," Vrelt demanded. Huni pulled a scanner from her bag. She pointed it at the Raxul and watched the readings. "The Raxul's stress levels are normal. Its hormone balance shows protection instinct. The same hormones it would have if protecting its own offspring." "That is ridiculous," Vrelt said. "The human is not its offspring." "No," Huni agreed. "But the Raxul thinks it needs to protect him anyway." She looked at Vrelt. "Do you know what pack bonding is?" Vrelt shook his head. "On Earth, many predators work together," Huni explained. "Wolves hunt in packs. Lions have prides. But humans do something unique. Humans bond with other species. They make packs with creatures that aren't human." She pointed at Day. "Thousands of years ago, humans befriended wolves. They turned them into dogs. They bonded with horses, cats, birds, even other predators. There are stories of humans keeping tigers and lions as companions. It's in our nature. We see an animal and we want to make it our friend." One of the guards laughed. "That is the stupidest survival strategy I ever heard." Huni looked at him. "Is it? Humans are now on dozens of worlds. We have colonies across this sector. We did that not by being the strongest, but by making alliances, by working together, by bonding." She turned back to the cage. "Somehow this man triggered the Raxul's pack instinct. He showed respect. He shared resources. He didn't kill it when he could have. The Raxul recognized those behaviors. It sees him as part of its pack now." Vrelt stepped closer to Hyun-ai. "Then make it stop. The human is a prisoner. He will be punished." "I can't make it stop," Huni said. "The bond is formed. If you try to take him, the Raxul will fight to protect him. And if you kill the Raxul, you'll have a bigger problem." "What problem?" Vrelt asked. Hyun-ai gestured around the cargo bay. Other prisoners were watching now, dozens of them, including more humans. "Every prisoner on this ship just watched a human survive your ultimate punishment. They watched him do the impossible. If you kill him now, you'll make him a martyr. The humans will resist. Others will join them. You'll have a rebellion on your hands." Vrelt was quiet for a long moment. His tail, which had been still, now moved back and forth with agitation. "Lock them both in the cage," he finally said. "I will decide what to do later." The guards closed the cage door. Vrelt and most of the guards left, but 4 remained to watch. Hune stayed too, studying the cage. Day sat down against the wall again. His shoulder hurt where the Raxul had scratched him yesterday. The Raxul settled down beside him, close enough that Day could feel the warmth from its body. "That was interesting," Hune said from outside the cage. She spoke in Korean so the guards wouldn't understand. "What's your name?" "Kang Day," he replied in the same language. "You're the doctor they captured from the research ship?" She nodded. Dr. Hune, I've been here for 6 months. They make me study the creatures they capture. She looked at the Raxel. But I've never seen anything like this. How did you do it? Day shrugged. I just didn't want to die. I remembered things my grandfather told me about animals, about showing respect, about not running. You triggered an instinct the Raxel probably didn't know it had, Hyune said. Most creatures have genetic memories of pack behavior. Even solitary predators sometimes work together under the right conditions. She glanced at the guards, then back at Day. The other humans are watching you, she said quietly. There are about 40 of us on this ship. We've been waiting for the right moment to resist, but we were too afraid, too scattered. And now? Day asked. Now they have hope, Hune said. You showed them that the Velthrons aren't invincible, that we can survive their worst. One of the guards shouted at Hyune, Stop talking to the prisoner. She nodded at the guard, then looked at Day one more time. Stay alive, she said in Korean. We need you. Then she left. Day sat in the cage with the Raxel beside him. The creature's red eyes were half closed, but Day knew it was still alert. Still watching. Still protecting. He reached out slowly and placed his hand on the Raxel's head. The creature leaned into his touch slightly. Day felt the warmth of its scales, the power in its muscles. We're in trouble, you and I, he said softly. They won't let this continue. They'll find a way to separate us or kill us both. The Raxel made a soft rumbling sound. Almost like a cat's purr, but deeper. But maybe we can help each other. Day continued. I need to get out of here. Get back to my crew. And you? You shouldn't be in a cage either. You should be on your world hunting under open sky. The creature's eyes opened fully, looking at him. I don't know if you understand me, Day said, but I promise you this. I'll find a way out, and when I do, you're coming with me. The Raxel rested its head on its front legs and closed its eyes again, but it shifted closer to Day, its massive body a wall of protection between him and the world. Outside the cage, the guards watched nervously. They had seen prisoners die in that cage dozens of times, but they had never seen this, never seen a predator become a guardian. Word would spread through the ship. The story would grow, and in the cells and work areas where prisoners suffered, a new feeling would begin to grow. Hope. 3 days passed. Day stayed in the cage with the Raxel. Guards brought food twice a day, sliding trays through a small opening at the bottom of the cage. The Raxel ate some kind of raw meat. Day got protein bars and water. The Raxel always ate first, then pushed half its food toward Day. Day did the same with his food. It was a ritual now. Sharing made the bond stronger. On the 4th day, something changed. A guard came to the cage alone during the sleep cycle when most of the ship was dark. He was young for a Velthron, his scales still bright green. Human, the guard whispered. Don't make noise. Day moved to the bars carefully. The Raxel stood up, ready to defend, but Day touched its side and it relaxed slightly. What do you want? Day asked. The guard looked around nervously. There is a human in cell block 3. He wants to talk to you. He says it's important. The guard pulled out a small communication device and pushed it through the bars. You have 5 minutes before the next patrol. Day took the device. Why are you helping me? The guard was quiet for a moment. My mate is pregnant. If she gives birth to a weak hatchling, they will kill it. That is Velthran law. Only the strong survive. He looked at the Raxel, then at Day. But you made the Raxel protect you. You are weak by our standards, but you survived. Maybe strength is different than we think. Then the guard walked away quickly. Day pressed the button on the device. Hello? A man's voice came through, also speaking Korean. Kang Day. My name is Nam Teo. I'm an engineer. I've been mapping this ship for 3 months. Why? He asked. Because I want to escape, Teo said. And now maybe we can. Everyone on this ship is talking about you. About what you did. The humans want to fight back, but we need a leader. I'm not a leader, Day said. I'm just trying to survive. You survived the impossible, another voice said. A woman's voice. My name is Somi. I was a medic before they captured me. I've been treating injured prisoners. Many of them are ready to fight. They just need someone to show them it's possible. Day thought about this. Even if we escape this cell, where would we go? We're in deep space. The ship has escape pods, Teo said. And the Velthrons have supply runs to a station near the frontier. If we time it right, we can take control of the ship during a supply run and signal for help. How many prisoners are there? Day asked. About 200, Somi answered. 40 are human. The rest are from other species the Velthrons conquered. Many are weak from poor treatment, but some are strong enough to fight. And the guards. 60 guards plus 20 ship crew, Teo said. But the guards don't expect resistance. We've been obedient for so long. That's our advantage, Day looked at the Raxol. The creature was watching him, those red eyes reflecting the dim light. I have one more weapon, he said. But I need to get out of this cage first. Working on it, Teo said. The guard who gave you that device will help. His name is Calith. He's not the only one who doubts Vrelt's leadership. Give us 2 days, the device went dead. Day hid it under some straw in the corner of the cage. 2 days later, during the morning meal, Calith came to the cage with another guard. They were arguing loudly. Commander Vrelt says the human must be moved to isolation, Calith said. The other prisoners talk about him too much. The other guard shook his head. Moving him is dangerous. The Raxel will attack. Then sedate the Raxel first, Calith said. He held up an injection gun. Once it's asleep, we can move the human safely. The other guard thought about this, then nodded. Fine, but you do it. I'm not getting close to that thing. Calith opened the cage door slightly. Human, move to the back corner. Any tricks and we shoot you both. Day moved to the back. The Raxel growled but didn't attack. Calith entered carefully, the injection gun in one hand. He moved toward the Raxel, then pretended to stumble. His hand hit a control panel on the wall. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The cage door slid fully open. Emergency breach, Calith shouted. All cells are unlocked. Throughout the ship, cell doors opened. Prisoners stepped out, confused at first, then understanding. The other guard turned toward the corridor, reaching for his weapon. Day moved fast. He grabbed a metal food tray and hit the guard across the head. The guard fell. Calith looked at Day. Go. I'll say you overpowered us both. Free the others. Take the ship. Come with us, Day said. Calith shook his head. This is your fight. But I hope you win. He hit the alarm again, then ran toward the command center, shouting about the escape. Day ran out of the cage. The Raxel followed close behind him. They moved through the corridors. Other prisoners were fighting guards now. Day saw Jiwoo, his communications officer. She was helping an injured prisoner, Jiwoo. Day shouted. She turned and saw him. Her eyes went wide when she saw the Raxel, but Day shook his head. It's with me. Where are the others? Main corridor, she said. Teo is leading a group to the engine room. Somi is getting the wounded to a safe area. I need to get to the command center, Day said. Can you help? Jiwoo nodded. Follow me. They ran through the ship. The Raxel stayed with Day, sometimes running ahead to check around corners. When they encountered guards, the creature moved with deadly speed. It was born to hunt, and now it had permission. They reached the command center. The door was sealed. Teo was already there with 5 other humans and a few alien prisoners. He had his hand on a control panel. The engine room is ours, Teo said when he saw Day. The ship can't jump to hyperspace without our permission now. But Vrelt sealed himself in the command center with his best guards. Day looked at the door. Can you cut through? Not without killing everyone inside, Teo said. The command center has emergency bulkheads. If we try to force it, it'll vent atmosphere. Somi arrived with more prisoners. She was carrying medical supplies. The wounded are secure, but we lost 3 prisoners in the fighting, and at least 8 guards are dead. Day felt sick. He hadn't wanted people to die. But there was no going back now. He walked to the command center door and hit the communication button. Vrelt, this is Kang Day. The ship is ours. Your guards surrendered or fled. Open this door. Vrelt's voice came through full of anger. You are a dead man, human. Even if you take this ship, the Empire will send others. You cannot win. Maybe not, Day said. But we can try. We're not going to be slaves anymore. I will kill every prisoner on this ship before I surrender, Vrelt said. Day thought about this. Then he had an idea. The Raxel is with me, he said. Right now it's calm, but if I tell it you're a threat, it will do everything it can to reach you. Can those bulkheads stop it? Silence from the other side. I don't want more death, Day continued, but I will do what I must. Open the door. Let your guards out. They can live. You can live. Just give up the ship, more silence. Then finally the door hissed open. 6 guards came out first, their weapons on the ground. They looked frightened. Vrelt came out last. He stared at Day with hatred in his eyes, but he also looked at the Raxel, and Day saw fear there too. "The ship is yours," Vrelt said. "For now." Teo and the others moved forward and secured the guards. Somi began checking them for injuries. Day walked into the command center. Jiwoo followed him. The controls were complex, but Jiwoo had trained on communication systems. She sat down at the main console. "I can send a signal," she said. "There's a human trading station 3 days from here. If we can make it there, we'll be safe." Day nodded. Then he looked at all the freed prisoners who had gathered. Humans, aliens, all of them watching him. "We're not safe yet," he said. "The Velthrons will come after us. But right now this ship is ours. We decide where we go." "And I say we go to freedom." The prisoners cheered. It was a sound of hope, of victory, of liberation. The Raxel stayed beside Day through it all, a silent guardian, proof that even the greatest predator could choose to protect rather than destroy. The prison ship moved through space with new purpose. Day stood on the command deck, watching the stars through the view screen. 3 days had passed since the uprising. 3 days of learning how to run a ship, organizing the freed prisoners, and staying ahead of Velthron patrols. Jiwoo sat at the communication station. She had barely slept, constantly monitoring frequencies for danger. Teo worked in the engine room with other engineers keeping the ship running. Somi had set up a medical bay where she treated injuries from the uprising. The Raxul stayed close to Day. The creature didn't understand ships or space travel, but it understood danger. Whenever Day tensed or worried, the Raxul would press against his leg, offering comfort. Day had started calling it Gaon, a Korean word meaning center or the world, because that's what the creature had become to him. The center of everything that happened. The world had changed because of their bond. "Day," Jiwoo called out. "I'm picking up a distress signal. It's human." Day walked over to her station. "Where?" 2 hours away, she said. "It's another prison transport. Smaller than this one, maybe 50 prisoners." Teo came up from the engine room. "We can make it there. But it's risky. We're already low on supplies. And if the Velthrons track us, we can't leave humans to suffer," Day said. "Not when we can help." Somi joined them. "I agree with Day. We were those prisoners 3 days ago. Someone needs to help them." Teo sighed. "Fine, but we need to be smart about this. We can't fight every Velthron ship we encounter." "We don't fight them," Dee said. "We outsmart them. They change course." 2 hours later, they found the prison transport. It was a small vessel, heavily guarded. Dee watched it through the view screen, thinking, "Jiwoo, can you hack their communications?" He asked. "Maybe," she said. "What do you need?" "Send them a message. Tell them we're a Velthron patrol ship responding to their distress call. Tell them to prepare for docking." Jiwoo's fingers moved across the console. After a minute, she nodded. "They're buying it. They say they'll open the docking port. The ship's connected." Day gathered 20 freed prisoners, the strongest ones. He gave them weapons taken from the Velthron guards. Then he did something unexpected. He opened the cage where they were keeping Vrelt and the captured guards. "What are you doing?" Teo asked. Day looked at Vrelt. "You want to live?" Vrelt's eyes narrowed. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to walk onto that transport and tell the guards there to surrender," Day said. "Tell them the human resistance has taken multiple ships. Tell them their empire is losing control. Tell them surrender is their only option." "Why would I do that?" Vrelt asked. "Because if you do, I'll let you go," Day said. "You and your guards can take an escape pod to the nearest Veltron station. But if you refuse, I'll put you back in the cage with Gaon and see how long you last." The Raxel growled at the mention of its name. Vrelt looked at the creature, then at Day. "You would really let me go?" Vrelt asked. "I don't want to be a killer," Day said. "I just want to be free. Help me free those prisoners and you can leave." Vrelt was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I will do it." They moved through the docking tunnel. Vrelt walked in front with 2 of his guards. Day followed with Gaon beside him and the other freed prisoners behind. When they entered the transport, the guards there stood at attention. Their commander came forward. "Commander Vrelt," the guard said. "We didn't expect—" "Listen to me carefully," Vrelt interrupted. "This ship has been taken by human prisoners. More ships will follow. The Empire is losing control of this sector. I am ordering you to release your prisoners and surrender your weapons." The commander looked confused. "Sir, I don't understand." Are you under duress? No, Vrelt said, and there was something in his voice that surprised Day, almost like respect. I am telling you the truth. These humans are different from what we thought. They are stronger than we believed. Fighting them is pointless. The commander looked past Vrelt and saw Day with the Raxel. His eyes went wide. Is that a Raxel? Why is it with the human? That, Vrelt said, is why we cannot win. The commander stared for another moment. Then he slowly put down his weapon. His guards did the same. Within an hour, the transport was liberated. 50 more prisoners were free. He kept his promise. Vrelt and his guards took an escape pod and left. You shouldn't have let him go, Teo said as they watched the pod depart. Maybe, Day agreed. But if we become like them, if we kill without mercy, then what are we fighting for? Over the next 3 months, they freed 17 more prison transports. Word spread across Velthron space. Humans were resisting. Ships were being taken. Slaves were becoming free. The Velthron Empire sent warships to stop them, but Dai and his growing fleet were always one step ahead. They used the Velthron's own tactics against them. They hid in asteroid fields. They sent false signals. They struck fast and disappeared. More importantly, they built alliances. Aliens from dozens of species joined them. They all had suffered under Velthron rule. Now they had hope. Day found a frontier world far from Velthron space. It was a harsh world, but it had water and could support life. They landed the ships there and began to build a settlement. One day, Jiwoo came running to find Day. There's a ship approaching. It's human. Day felt his heart race. One of ours? No, she said, smiling. It's from your original crew. They got the message I sent 3 months ago. They've been looking for you. Day ran to the landing field. A small merchant ship set down and the ramp opened. People came out, people he knew, his crew, his family. And there, walking down the ramp, was Jiwoo from his original ship. He had 2 Jiwoos now, he realized with a laugh. His communications officer who had been captured with him, and his navigator from his merchant vessel. They embraced. There were tears. There was laughter. We thought you were dead, his navigator said. When the Velthrons took you, we tried to follow, but they were too fast. I'm alive, Day said. We're all alive. And we're building something here. A place where we're free. That evening, Day called a gathering. Hundreds of freed prisoners came. Humans, aliens, all of them survivors. They gathered in a clearing under the planet's 2 moons. Day stood before them with Gaon at his side. The Raxel had grown even bigger over the months, well-fed and healthy. But it never left Day's side. 3 months ago, I was thrown into a cage to die, Day began. The Velthrons thought I was weak. They thought humans were soft. They were wrong, the crowd cheered. But I didn't survive because I was strong, Day continued. I survived because I understood something the Velthrons didn't. Strength isn't about being the biggest or having the sharpest claws. Strength is about adaptability, about working together, about making allies out of enemies. He put his hand on Gaon's head. The Raxel leaned into his touch. Where I come from, humans have a saying. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We're going far. We're building something that the Veltron Empire can't destroy. A community where all species can live free. Somi stepped forward. We've been getting messages from other prisoners across Velthron space. They want to know how we did it. They want to know if they can do it too. Teo nodded. We should help them. Send ships, weapons, supplies. Start more uprisings. Day looked around at all the faces watching him. The Velthrons made a mistake. They thought caging me with a predator would kill me. Instead, they showed me something important. Even the fiercest predator can choose to protect rather than destroy. Even enemies can become family. The crowd was silent, listening. We're not just survivors, Day said. We're the beginning of something new. A resistance that doesn't just fight against tyranny, but builds something better. And I promise you all, we will keep fighting. We will keep building. Until every slave is free. Until every cage is empty. The crowd erupted in cheers. They chanted his name. But Day shook his head and raised his hands for quiet. Don't chant for me, he said. This isn't about one person. This is about all of us. Every person who refused to give up. Every person who chose hope over despair. As the gathering ended and people returned to their homes, Day walked to the edge of the settlement. Gaon followed as always. They stood together looking up at the stars. We did it, Day said to the Raxel. We survived. We're free. Guion made that rumbling purr sound and pressed against Day's leg. Day smiled. He thought about his grandfather, about those old stories of tigers and mountains. The old man would have liked Guion, he thought. Would have understood this bond between predator and human. Behind them, the settlement was alive with activity. Children playing, people building, lives being lived in freedom. The Velthron Empire had tried to break Kangde by putting him in a cage with a predator. Instead, they created something they never expected. A symbol of hope. A legend that would spread across the galaxy. The story of a man and a predator who became family. The story of the human who taught a killer to love. The story that proved weakness could become strength and enemies could become guardians. By morning, the predator had guarded him like a cub. By the end, they had changed the galaxy together, and somewhere in Velthron space, in cages and prisons, other humans heard the story and began to hope, began to resist, began to believe that freedom was possible. Because if Kangde could survive the Raxel, if he could turn the ultimate weapon